It's called game tape. It may be referred to as other things in other people's repertoire, but as far as I go, I grew up playing sports, and for me, it's the easiest way for me to convince myself that what I'm doing is a game and to get into it. So let's talk a little bit about what game tape is. It's what athletes do, right? Boxers do it, football teams do it, hockey teams do it, where once they finish a game or they're preparing to go into another game or they're preparing for a competitor, they're always going to go back and they're going to watch game tape to make sure that they are as best prepared for the next game or to make improvements as possible. And I think we often, one, are not taking enough action to make calls in the first place. We're already scared to do that. But once we can get over the hurdle of making calls and doing that, we're scared of the sound of our own voice, and we're scared to listen to our calls. Like, oh my gosh, I was so cringeworthy what I said, right? But the only way to get better is to do, to take a page out of somebody else's book. And like, that's one thing that I've always done is look outside of our industry for inspiration on how we can make things better within our industry. And game tape has been, I would say, if I could isolate one activity that I did after making calls, like you can't just listen to calls, you still have to make calls first. But if there's one thing that you can do to really improve your skill set very quickly, it would be game tape.
Yeah, I mean, I see the biggest mistake that a lot of agents make is they don't look at ways to improve and to get better. And so they'll finally get over call reluctance. They'll finally be ready to pick up the phone and start picking up the phone. And they'll just dial numbers and have conversations and continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And it's that old saying, if you continue to do the same thing over again and expect different results, it's just the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
And, for those of you, I love this sports analogy and calling it game tape. For those of you who aren't athletes, like the best athletes, boxers, football players, hockey players, basketball players in the world, they spend time preparing for the game by watching themselves in game action, making mistakes, seeing where they missed opportunities, seeing what they could have done differently, what they could have done better, where they took advantage of great opportunities and things they did well, but how they might be able to improve on them. And I think that's something that almost no one does.
The way that I kind of look at sales, right, coming from sports, it's like there's kind of three things that we do, internally within the team, and then within the advanced program that we're going to launch for SalesGenius, which is basically like public access to get what we do internally within our team. But like, there's kind of three pillars that happen to like with athletes. And I wanted to kind of bring that into real estate training, right? So it's like game tape is review of your past performance. Role play is like going to the gym. It's like the practice, you got to go to practice before you go to the game. And then making the actual calls is like the game. So it's like, those are kind of the three things that sports teams do. And I think that we also need to implement those things within our businesses. So it's like the role play is either going to the gym or it's like, going to practice. I know Allen Iverson was like, we're talking about practice? Like, yeah, we're talking about practice, right? So that's role play. And then game tape is going back to be like, oh shit, this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
For 2 weeks,
I agree.
3 weeks.
People love to, role playing is huge within the industry, and everyone wants to role play new scripts, which is the practice. But I'll be honest, role playing is kind of easy because there's no pressure. It's practice.
Yeah.
Right? There's not money on the line. There's not conversations on the line. There's not relationships on the line. And so role play is easy and gets really easy. And to be honest, because there's no pressure in role play, people don't make the same mistakes that they do on live calls, right? So if you go watch an NFL quarterback in practice, he barely misses a pass, right? He's just dropping dime. But he knows he's wearing that red jersey. He's not allowed to be hit. He knows he's got all day in the pocket. It's easy, and he knows there's nothing in the line. He knows he throws an interception. Who cares?
Totally.
Whereas the thing I love about game tape is it forces you to see your weaknesses and where you can make improvements quickly. Whereas with role play, you don't even make the mistake. So you don't get yes, you can get feedback when you're very green. But for like, if you're seasoned at all and have taken some sales training and have some basic training, role play becomes easy for you. And because there's no pressure, you make fewer mistakes.
Check out our YouTube or Spotify channel, and don't forget to subscribe.